Welcome to In Transit on the Elias Macko Show. Today, we're going to take a look at big subsidies coming from the Canadian government, $13 billion, in fact, all to help Volkswagen build an electric vehicle battery plant. And there are a lot of high hopes for this plant, right? By the way, if some of you don't know this, right, but right now in this country, 20% of all cars sold in BC electric. In Quebec, we're in second place in the country, 15%. And the growth is exponential. So year over year, it's growing by 33%, 50%, depends on the region here. That under that timeline, it's like 4 to 7 years, everyone's got electric cars. So EVs are happening. It's a thing. It's not going to be stopped. So with that in mind, Canada's trying to stay on board with this thing. Some subsidies going out to Volkswagen to build that plant. And the hope here is it'll create 3,000 direct jobs, 30,000 indirect jobs. There are questions as to whether or not those high numbers will actually happen. And there are other questions about, is it worth it? Does the Canadian government have to give out these billions of dollars in subsidies in order to ensure EV battery production in this country? To find out more, we're going to go now to Flavio Volpe. He's president of the Automotive Parts Manufacturers Association here in Canada. Maybe one of the top 2-3 people when it comes to answering this question. Flavio, it's always a great pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. You're quite generous with that characterization. I was in Montreal on the weekend at Olympic Stadium at the EV Auto Show with our project there, our Canadian vehicle, with all the other great EVs made by all the other manufacturers in the world. You're right. The market is demanding them. People are embracing them, and this investment comes at a great time.
So let's talk about the investment of $13 billion. It's a lot of money. Why don't you tell me why you think the government made the right decision here?
Sure. I think a lot of people don't know a lot about the deal because they hear the $13 billion and they gasp. It isn't $13 billion to build the plant. The plant is a $7 billion plant. The federal government promised $700 million there. The provincial government of Ontario promised $500 million. That's a competitive number. We've seen that in all the different plant investments in Canada and around North America. The rest of the money is a promise that if Volkswagen builds the plant and produces up to 1 million batteries a year, employing 3,000 people directly and up to 30,000 people indirectly, every year when they file, they are eligible for a tax credit or a tax abatement. The $13 billion is the maximum total of that over the course of the investment. That plant is going to make batteries for at least 20 years. That plant, that industrial site will be there 50 years plus. Volkswagen said 100 years. I think we have experience in this country with 100-year sites in Oshawa and Windsor. So it's different than when I worked at the province and we helped to bail out General Motors and Chrysler in 2009 and 10 when the world fell apart. They needed emergency financing. We wrote them a check and we said, we hope you survive. They did. But that was a $13 billion check. This is a promise to co-invest along the way. If you don't make those batteries, or if the U.S. tax credit that we had to match to land this disappears, well, so does the Canadian contribution.
Mm-hmm. And Flavio, there's a cost to everything. So there's a cost. If the government's going to invest in this, there's a cost. We have one number, and you broke it down quite well, the $13 billion. What is the cost of not doing anything when it comes to the EV transition right now?
Well, let me make a little bit of an equivalence between Quebec City and St. Thomas. Both cities lost their franchise in the past couple of decades. Quebec City lost the hockey franchise, and St. Thomas lost their Ford assembly plant. All those great big police cars we used to see on the roads were made in St. Thomas. What happened in St. Thomas after they left is about 10,000 total jobs in the area also left. Manufacturing jobs that paid good salaries, that put food on the table, put people in, dropped in St. Thomas. You want to watch a hockey game in Quebec City? Better turn the TV on. Because you can't go down to the Colisée and have a great pre-game, during the game, after the game, You want to make the big leagues out of Quebec. Maybe you're now a Habs fan, although I'm sure there's a lot of people listening there who are going to shudder when you say that. There's a difference between being in the big leagues or not. And if you're in the big leagues, there's tens of thousands of jobs, there's local prosperity, you're on the map, there's hope. The generations that are growing up now have the same sense of, I can do this here at home. I can build a family here at home rather than when I finish school, I got to move. And nobody gets their hockey franchise back. But St. Thomas got their auto franchise back, and a site that's going to be as big as the General Motors Oshawa site at its peak in the 70s and 80s. It's great news for those people.
So Flavio, to keep the hockey analogy going here just for a bit, right? In the Nordique situation, they go to Colorado, they get the brand new arena, they win Stanley Cups, right? In the auto, for Canadian auto and the green transition, the EV transition in the Canadian automotive space, what's the equivalent there in the sense if we don't invest the $13 billion? I mean, we have lithium in this country. We have so many of the things that they need for batteries. So what are these? What is the car companies? What are their other options instead of Canada?
Look, we saw Ford invest in Tennessee and Kentucky, $11 billion plant that's going to Kentucky and Tennessee. It's kind of a twin location in a place where Ford has not traditionally invested. You know, how many jobs are missing in Michigan that would have been great for Ford to go there? The Volkswagen in 2009 decided to build a vehicle assembly plant in Chattanooga instead of southwestern Ontario. Well, they now make 500,000 cars there. There's about 20,000 jobs there. It has now become the center for Volkswagen operations in North America. And they outbid us at the time by about $320 million. And it sounds like a lot of money, and I know all your viewers or your listeners would say, boy, cost of food is pretty high now. $320 million would go far. Well, an assembly plant like this battery plant buys $10 billion annually of supplies, subcomponents, drives an economy that is twice that size in the region. That's what you miss. You either have it or you don't. There's no second place in automotive. There's no second place in big league hockey.
And to wrap up here, Flavio, let's talk about Quebec for a second.
Yeah.
In this transition, and everyone is going to be building battery plants. There's a lot of rumors out there about big companies, big EV companies building plants in this country. Do you think this could turn things around for Quebec when it comes to auto manufacturing? Could we see some big plants here?
I think most vehicles, EVs made in North America, 10 to 15 years from now will be powered by Quebec. The critical minerals that are in the ground there are in volumes that completely eclipse any other opportunity in North America. The challenge will be to make sure that some of that refining happens there and cell manufacture happens there, and cathode and anode. I featured our all-Canadian Project Aero prototype at Olympic Stadium last week, and we said, look, this car, while everybody thinks the auto sector is Ontario, the wheels, the motor, the LiDAR, cybersecurity, and the battery are from Quebec.
Wow.
Project Aero is powered by Quebec. I think the industry will be powered by Quebec. We've just got to do that hard work to make sure we put a turnstile between the mines and the car production and make sure a whole bunch of those jobs happen up that end of the highway.
Flavio, got to leave it there. It's always a pleasure talking to you. You know so much about this industry. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Flavio Volpe is president of the Automotive Parts Manufacturers Association here in Canada.